shit up like it's about to go up, break them like internet. Goofies trying to run up, we leave them in the dead.
You say, okay, I have a lot of money, but you have no money unless you take profits.
When the first ever spot ETF was created for gold 10x.
And the only thing I really knew was Bitcoin at the time, so I just invested very heavily into that. Rode it all the way up.
What's up?
My name is Jeff. Even the creators have said it's going to be the predecessor of CBDC.
What that taught me was that I need to be self-sufficient.
A solid DCA investment strategy, and pretend the red sell button doesn't even exist.
We about to go up like.
Hey, Jay. Trust me, bro. As soon as Pulse Chain launches, pHex is going to go down. eHex is going to go up. And it's probably going to take a solid year before pHex does anything. And then it might reach parity, but I'm not sure. I don't know. What do you think?
Dude, you know what's the funniest thing about the whole Pulse Chain release was that it completely blew everybody's expectations out the window. And for some people it was good and some people it was bad, right? Everybody, I'm sure most folks are familiar with the Mike Tyson quote that everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. That's what happened when Pulse Chain got released, right? Everybody got punched in the face, and everybody's theories and everybody's assumptions about what was going to happen with pHex, what was going to happen with Pulse and pulsex and the ratios, all of that went out the window. It's like everything that we thought was going to happen either didn't happen or the complete opposite happened, right? And that's what happened with pHex and Hex and the Hex pair. We thought it was going to take a considerable amount of time for those two to reach parity, but within the first week, I think it was like within the first 3 or 4 days, it reached parity, and then eventually pHex started taking off, right? So I like that whole experience with Pulse Chain was fucking wild, bro. And what happened with the Hex ratios is just one of the two things that like really caught everybody by surprise. Like nobody, and I mean nobody, not any of the Hex streamers that I was watching on YouTube, anybody on Twitter expected that thing to happen, and that's exactly what happened, bro.
I mean, I'm still shocked by a lot of this stuff. Whether it's, pHex taking charge when you compare the two, or if you look at the ratio swings and such, it's been a very, I mean, you said it best. You described it. I mean, we had no idea what was around the corner. And it's funny, the last 6 months prior to this ecosystem launching, you had so many different price predictions and all that stuff, and it just didn't come to fruition.
Yep.
But you know what? It's times like these that make the real investors in the ecosystem, like it solidifies them, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
The weak hands that were just in it, that were passively, jumping into the project simply because they wanted to jump on the back of the hexagons in the ecosystem that had forged their investment muscle through all the dips and Hex prior to the Pulse Chain launch. Everybody that thought that they could just jump on, in their path, jump in their wake and ride a new L1 up to what did I see? 100x, 500x from prices and all that stuff. But yeah, it's insane. But I think the biggest surprise of all is pHex. I don't think there's a single coin in the ecosystem that has surpassed expectations faster than pHex. And the TA that you're about to do is just going to really drive that home, and it's pretty awesome to see. So what do you got in tap tonight? What are you thinking? What's in your mind? Give us a little preview, and then let's go ahead and hop into the content.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what you said, right? I think out of every single surprise that happened when Pulse Chain released, the shenanigans with the Hex pair was definitely the most surprising out of everything. Right? I think a lot of people were caught off guard that pHex was the one that really made a run. And incentive, right? And what incentive did was pretty fucking disgusting, right? And then obviously both Pulse and pHex going below SAC prices also caught people off guard, right? But man, there is nothing that created a bigger schism between the community than what happened with the Hex pair, right? But we've been talking about this for a while, and one of the theories that did actually play out for people is that every single token within the RH ecosystem, they're going to have their time in the sun, right? On launch, pHex had its time in the sun, and then Pulse Chain kind of took over, right? Because we saw the ratios between Pulse and pHex, and pHex as well, right? There was a point in time where the ratio was favoring Pulse, and now it seems like pHex is in the spotlight, right? And the TA that we're going to go over today, kind of like you said, it really highlights that. This morning I woke up to Richard Hart tweeting about Elon Musk, and in a tweet, let me actually go ahead and share this with you guys. A second here. There we go. So in the tweet, it says, I have a fondness for Hex. And obviously, you and I both know that he's not really talking about Hex or the RH ecosystem or Pulse Chain or any of that, right? He's talking about like hexadecimals in general. But when Richard tweets something like this, it's going to elicit some kind of response from the community. So I was like, okay, let's go ahead and take a look at what the charts are doing. And lo and behold, I go check eHex first, and eHex breaks past 1 cent again, right? And then I was like, oh, of course I expected that to happen, right? And then so I start reviewing the other RH ecosystems. I was like, wow, every single token is doing pretty well, right? Most of the markets right now are crabbing, but for the most part, the RH ecosystem token they're also crabbing, but they have a little bit more momentum to them, right? As a result of Richard tweeting that. And then I was doing TA in all of these coins, and then pHex happened to be the last on my list. And then I pull up pHex chart, and I was like, whoa! I was like, that looks hella fucking bullish. Trolling Molin says the J has the happiest face on right now. It's like he's having the time of his life. Here's the thing, Trolling Molin, right? The reason why I get so excited when I do TA and when I do these presentations for you guys is because it's like all of the things that I've been learning over the past 1.5 years, it seems like those things are finally coming together. And it's really nice being able to do your analysis on the chart, and actually those things, like your predictions, actually come true, right? And so I was doing this Elliott wave analysis with pHex since we broke the initial long-term downtrend that we've been forming since the first week of Pulse Chain. And I had a theory set in place already for where the move might go. And seeing that play out on the chart, it's vindicating to a degree, right? That like, oh yeah, you're not just full of shit. What you're actually doing, right? Your analysis is actually sound, and it's actually coming true. And obviously that's not always going to be the case. Like there are going to be times when I get things wrong. We're always playing probabilities, right? And you always have to be adaptable. It's kind of like what Josh mentioned, right? In the beginning, everybody's plans went out the window, and you have to be adaptable, right? Because if you're not, you're going to get left behind, right? You might not be able to take profits, or you're just not going to be able to buy into something that's good. So it's really nice being able to see the hard work actually play out on the chart. That's what's making me most excited, right? So let's go right into it. Josh, if you could go ahead and share my screen here for pHex. Give me 1 second here. Let's switch over to this tab. Let me know if you guys can see that okay, all right? Josh,
Yeah,
do I have the green light for? Okay, all right. I'm going to go ahead.
Good to go.
Cool. I'm going to go ahead and full screen this and zoom in so you guys can have a little bit of a better visual. Let me turn off our RSI. Oh, whoa, that's not what I wanted. That's the RSI. All right, here we go. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, if you guys notice, so this is the chart for pHex. We broke through this long-term downtrend, like I mentioned earlier, that formed after like the first week of Pulse Chain. So if you see here, this was like day 5 of Pulse Chain's release, and we've been in a downtrend ever since, right? So pHex finally broke out of that downtrend, and this is when I started realizing that, okay, we might start heading into the first macro wave 1 for all of the RH ecosystem tokens. And it seems like so far it's pHex that has the most distinct Elliott wave pattern, right? That 5-wave impulse that we look for during an Elliott wave sequence. It seems like pHex has the most bullish momentum, and it also has the most distinct pattern. So today when I jumped on doing my TA, I was like, okay, the pattern looks really bullish, and it looks like a classic Elliott wave sequence, right? But let's go ahead and see if we're actually hitting some of those price targets or those levels that we look for during an Elliott wave impulse, right? And so I was like, okay, this looks like a 5-wave sequence, but let's see if we actually hit some levels that we look out for. So the first thing that I did was I was like, okay, so did the wave 1, right? If you see here, we have this wave 1 here. I was like, okay, let's take a look if wave 1 actually hit some minimum fib levels that we look for, right, during the pullback. So after this initial wave 1 here, we did a little retracement. And we actually, if you actually see here, we take a fib retracement from the start of our wave 1 to the top. And then the wave 2 actually hit this 0.618 level, right? And I was like, okay, cool. The minimum pullback that we were looking for was a 0.382 level here at 1.28 cents. And we got that. The price actually pulled back further down into this 0.618 area, which was this 1.16 cents, right? And right smack dab into that golden pocket, we had that reaction. You see that wick down into the 0.618 range, right into the golden pocket, right? And so I was like, okay, cool. So we got a minimum pullback that we wanted out of our wave 2 into that 0.618 area. I was like, okay, that's cool. And then I was like, okay, well, let's go ahead and see what we got in terms of our fib extension for our wave 3. Did we hit some minimum numbers there? I was like, okay, so if we take our fib retracement, our fib extension tool, and we start here from the bottom of our wave 1 all the way to the top, and then pull it to the bottom of our wave 2. And you can see here that this wave 3, and I think the wave 3 is in, extended to a little bit past this point, this 2.618 area, and into this 2.6 cents. I was like, okay, so we have a minimum level for wave 3 that I'm looking for, because I'm looking for at least a minimum for wave 3 to hit. I'm always looking for at least this 1.618 area, and we blew past that, right? And then we had this, and then we had our pullback into our wave 4. I was like, all right, well, we know that during a pullback, our wave 4 has to have a minimum pullback of 0.382, right? We have to hit that fib level of 0.382. So let's take our fib retracement tool and take it from the bottom, from the start, right? If you can see here, we take that fib retracement from the start of our wave 3 to the top of our wave 3, right? And then what happened? Well, look at that. Our retracement here hits right at that 0.382 level, and it bottomed out at about 19 cents, right? So we hit our minimum fib retracement pullback, and we actually found support. If you take our drawing tool here, give me 1 second. Let me take out our fib retracement. All right, we actually found support here at this cycle high, right? You can see it lines up with the top of this candle here. This was our swing high from a few weeks back, and price found support right there at around 19 cents. I was like, okay, cool. We found support there. We hit our minimum fib retracement of 0.382 for our wave 4. Okay, and it seems like, take a look, pHex wants to head into its final wave 5. So what price targets are we looking for our wave 5? Well, let's keep up with our Elliott wave analysis. So at the minimum, right? Let's go ahead and take our price tool here. We can expect that the wave 5 at the minimum to at least match the percent gain of our wave 1. So if we take our price tool and take it from the bottom of our wave 1 here to the top of our wave 1, you can see that that's about a 48% increase. And so at the minimum, we can expect our wave 5 to have a 48% increase as well. So where does that take us? Well, let's go ahead and drag this and take it, right? So that's the bottom of our wave 4. A 48% increase from the bottom of our wave 4 is at least 2.88 cents. So at the very minimum, I expect price to hit 2.8 cents for our wave 5. That's the minimum level. Now, how about something that's a little bit more realistic past the minimum, right? Well, okay, if we take that same fib extension tool, right, we can get some more realistic levels for where this wave 5 might go. So what we'll do is we start our fib retracement, our fib extension tool from the start of wave 1 and take it to the top of our wave 3 and then pull it to where our wave 4 finishes. And then we have this 0.786 level. Now, the reason why why our more realistic targets is this 0.786 level is because during the wave 5, a very common extension for our wave 5 is that 0.786 level. Can it go a little bit higher? Can it go a little bit lower? Absolutely. But a very common termination point for the wave 5 is around that 0.786 level. And so I'm expecting for the minimum price for our wave 5 to hit for pHex is that 2.9 cents area. However, more realistically speaking, I expect it to hit somewhere around this 3.2 cents, right? But what's the really bullish scenario, right? I think that's the thing that everybody wants to know. What is the most bullish scenario for our wave 5? Well, we can go back to our ratios once again. So, like I said, the minimum for our wave 5 to hit has to match the percent gain of our wave 1. However, we also know that wave 5 tends to land somewhere in between our wave 3 and our wave 1. So if we have a minimum gain of 48% for wave 5, what's the maximum gain that we can hit? Well, let's find out. So from the end of our wave 2 to the very top of our wave 3, you could see that was almost a double in price, right? That was 125% increase in price. And so we can expect our wave 1, the most bullish scenario, to also go around another 125% increase in price. So let's go ahead and take that and place it here to the termination of our wave 4. And you can see, where does 125% increase take us? Well, it takes us to about 4.36 cents. And see, this is the great thing about TA, right? Once you become familiar with the fundamentals of TA, you can see exactly where a lot of confluence starts to come in. Well, if we do get that really bullish scenario, where does that 4.4 cent area match up? Well, take a look. That's also around where the all-time high is for pHex, right? And so if we get that really bullish scenario, I can expect pHex to break its all-time high, right? So the all-time high for pHex was 4.287 cents, right? And the maximum gain that we can expect out of this wave 5 is 125%, right around that 4.4 cent area, right? And that's also where I'm going to expect some resistance. And so you have now a a few variables, right, that is in confluence with each other, telling you that if we do get that really bullish momentum to the upside for our wave 5, that we can expect pHex to head anywhere around this 4.4 cent area, and then we're going to start getting some resistance around this 4.2 area, because that's where our prior all-time high was, right? So you can expect people to start taking some profits around here. Also, if we can bring up the RSI here for a quick second. 1 second. Here's another cool thing, right? The great thing about this is I don't see any bearish divergence here yet on the daily. Usually, at the very least, from what I've observed with other assets, what I observe is once we've started heading into this bullish like wave 3, especially for assets that have this really bullish wave 3, I usually start seeing some bearish divergence start on the RSI, right? And the bearish divergence, if you guys aren't familiar with it, is that we're looking for something that's we're looking for price to make higher highs, right? And the momentum indicators, in this case, we're using the RSI, we're looking for higher lows. And we don't have a higher low here yet on the bearish divergence. We have some, if you go to a lower time frame, you can see some bearish divergence forming, right? We have a higher high here in price, but if you can see here, we have a lower low here on our momentum indicators, right? So just to give you guys a visual, we have a higher high here in price, but we have a lower high here on our momentum indicators. However, this is only on the 12-hour chart, right? Usually we use a lower time frames for confirmation, and we like to see that bearish divergence on the higher time frames. So the fact that we don't have any bearish divergence yet here on the daily is actually making me very confident that we have a lot more room for upside here during this wave 5. So will it surprise me if pHex tried to break out from its past all-time high to possibly around that 4.4 cent area? I don't think so, right? I don't think that's too much of a stretch to say that pHex can make a run to break past its all-time high. And it also happens to line up really well with the Bitcoin 60-day cycle, right? And so I am pretty confident that if we get some really bullish momentum heading into the latter half of Bitcoin's 60-day cycle, that pHex can make a run to that 4.4 cents area. So that's pretty much what I had in terms of the charts here and the Elliott wave pattern for pHex. I'm really excited about it, and I thought that I'd share this with you guys. I was actually just gonna do a pretty pre-recorded video, but like, hey man, let's go ahead and jump on the live stream and do a live stream for the folks. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. So Josh, what do you think, man? Give me some of your thoughts about that analysis and about the price projections for pHex in general.
Yeah, for sure. So I still have we still got the chart up in front of you. I just wanted to ask you a quick question.
Sure.
Can you go to the wick with the all-time high? So
Yes.
all right, you see we're at the top of that candle, right? It looks like there's
This one right here?
Yeah, if you just go down to where the top of the candle is, not necessarily the wick.
So the top
Yep,
of the
right,
candle is here.
yeah,
Yes.
right in that area. Yeah, it looks like that in the days when, about a month or two ago, it looks like that a fairly decent level of resistance was created there.
Mhm.
What would you say is going to be the strength of that resistance once pHex starts its wave 5? Do you think that is going to be a significant level of resistance, or do you think that it's going to be something that can be punched through relatively easily?
So personally, I do think that level of resistance is going to be fairly strong, just because it's so close to pHex's all-time high. And also it really will have to depend on the overall context of the current market, right? If the whole RH ecosystem as a whole has some really bullish momentum, then this level of resistance might not be very tough for price to break through. But remember earlier too, like I said, at the minimum, that's the minimum price range that we're expecting from the wave 5 of pHex, right? Is that 2.9 cent area. So depending on the overall context of the market at that time, then this can be either very strong resistance or it could be fairly weak resistance. Right? So if we have a lot of bullish momentum during the latter half of this 60-day cycle, this might not be too difficult for price to break past it. To be quite honest with you.
I'm just curious. Would you mind measuring what the percentage would be from the bottom of wave 4 up to that resistance line, just to see what that percentage is?
Yep. So that is about a 53% increase from the bottom of our wave 4.
Gotcha. And you said the percentage increase from up to the top of wave 1 was 48%. Is that correct?
Yep, about 48%.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So
right. So that
yeah.
resistance level actually lines up pretty well with the minimum numbers that we can expect based on the ratios for Elliott waves, right? At the very minimum, we expect that the wave 5 matches the percent gain of our wave 1. So that price range actually falls smack dab into where we're expecting it to go.
Yeah, I just visually saw that, so I wanted to kind of get your take on that and see if it kind of lined up. So if we get a mediocre to maybe minimal wave 5, then we could see it pushing that resistance level. So what would the market have to look like? What kind of sentiment would have to come out in order for it to punch through that resistance level and in order for it to start challenging those all-time highs?
So I think the market sentiment has to, because right now we're in a very indecisive area of sentiment, right? Bitcoin has been treading this $30,000 area for quite a while, right? It's been a little bit over 2 weeks that Bitcoin has stayed in this range of $30,000 to $31,000. And it just seems like we keep getting rejected every single time we try and head up to that $31,000 area. And for a few days, we've actually closed below the 30K area into the high 29,000s, right? And people are starting to panic. I was like, please help, Bitcoin's below $30,000 again. I need some assistance, please. But here's the thing. It's already the 20th, right? Next week, what do we have coming up? Well, we have the Fed meeting on the I believe it's the 25th and the 26th of this month. So next week, if JP was like, hey guys, it seems like inflation is going down, right? And we're very close to our goal of 2%, right? Our goal is 2% inflation. And so I think I'm going to just chill, sit back, and hold the rates where they're at just to see how the market responds for the next month. Let's see if we can, because like if I was in JP's shoes, I was like, bro, why would I want to bump up the numbers if the overall inflation is going down, right? Over the past 2 months, inflation has gone down significantly, certainly higher in percent than our past, like near the beginning of the year, right? Almost a full percentage during the month of June, the month of May and the month of April, almost a full percentage down. So I'm like, if I was JP, this is me personally, I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to hang back and sit tight and see how the market reacts. Maybe next CPI report comes out and we're even closer to that 2% level, right? And so if during this next Fed meeting, JP was like, all right, guys, I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to just chill. The market looks good, right? S&P is really bullish. The NASDAQ is bullish. The Dow Jones is bullish. The job reports are coming in hot, right? People are even though the job reports came in hot, inflation is still going down. So I'm just gonna sit back and relax, right? So if JP says I'm gonna hold the rates where they're at, bro, man, 36K for Bitcoin, that's the next target, that's for sure.
So if pHex is able to get up to those new all-time high levels, what does that mean for the rest of the Richard Hart ecosystem?
Price go up. Like to put it as simply as I can, a rising tide lifts all boats, right? It's the Hart's law that we're probably going to see, right? Where because their liquidity is all bonded together, right? If one goes up, you can expect the rest of the RH tokens to go up, right? Not to the same degree, obviously, right? Like we mentioned earlier, there are going to be times in the market where one of the RH tokens is going to be doing much better than the rest of them, but because pHex is doing well, it's going to carry the rest of the RH ecosystem tokens up with it, right? And I actually want to highlight this comment here by Willie B Long 33, and he says it would also line up with the highest of stakes release, right? So you're talking about really bullish momentum. If JP decides to pause and we get the release of the highest of stakes, which is, I believe, around, is it August 4th or 5th? Right,
It's
4th
August.
or 5th.
It's that weekend. It's the I believe it's released on the 4th, but I mean they're showing on both days. So
Yep. Yeah. Like imagine that's like Brendan likes to use the perfect storm analogy, right? That's a perfect storm for Wave 5 or pHex, right? Not only it does the Fed pause, or I guess they maintain the rates, right? If JP decides to maintain the rates, not only does that provide a significant tailwind to the overall market, right? And pHex is part of that, right? Their RH ecosystem is part of that. And then we're also getting the release of the Highest of Stakes movie on the first weekend of August. And that's really cool because what's that movie about? The movie is about Hex in general, right? So we know that eHex most definitely is going to get some price appreciation because of the movie. But Hex is also going, like Pulse Chain Hex is also going to get some significant tailwind from the Highest of Stake movie as well, right? Just because they're the Hex pair, right? And so if we get all of those together, man, it seems more and more likely that pHex is going to break past its all-time highs. So yeah, thanks for that comment, Billy.
Yeah.
That was actually very insightful. I completely forgot about the Highest of Stakes movie coming out the first weekend of August.
oh, you're starting to get a little distorted a little bit then. Yeah, I was definitely gonna highlight that. That was an awesome comment by Billy. It really does seem to line up well within the time frame, the expected time frame. When you take a look back at what do we get? We got a CPI report a week or two ago that said we were at 3%. I fully expect another FOMC meeting result to be they're not going to adjust rates. That's just what I'm assuming. So let's say, for the sake of argument, that I am right. All right, let's say that they don't raise rates at all, and then we got the Highest of Stakes coming out that's being released in select markets across the country. What would you say the probability is of this time next month pHex having a new all-time high?
Very high. Very high. But that's a thing, right? If we are going to get a new all-time high for pHex, just because of how where we're at currently in the Elliott wave pattern of pHex, I expect if we're going to get a new all-time high, it's probably going to happen around that first week of August, right? And then that would complete pHex's macro wave 1. And then we'll head into its wave 2, right? It's macro wave 2. And that would actually be perfect because it lines up with Bitcoin's 60-day cycle, right? We were talking about this very early on during the release. And I thought to myself, is it just a coincidence that Pulse Chain just happened to release right near the end of Bitcoin's current 60-day cycle? Almost like Richard, the benevolent God King that he is trying to make it easy for us technical analysts to track the price of all of his tokens. I just found that, again, right? It could be purely coincidental, but I was like, man, that's really fucking interesting, So if we're gonna get a new all-time high for pHex, I fully expect it to come probably around within the first week of August. And then we're going to start pulling back into its macro wave 2 later on during the month. right? And like I said, it just lines up really well with Bitcoin's 60-day cycle. And so if it happens, that's what I'm expecting it to happen, right? And if all this happens, if JP holds it, I know the CME is pricing in like higher than 90% that he's going to raise it again. But look, man, there are very few times that I'm going to go against what the CME is predicting. I'm like, it just seems like a misdirection to me, man. There's way too much bullish news coming out of the market, right? With the CPI job reports coming in pretty well. I'm like, what reason would he have to raise rates, right? It's like just a dick punch to everybody else in the market if you do that, bro. You know, so I'm like, but hey, I'm not JP. I don't know what he's gonna do, but it just seems like a misdirection to me. So yeah, I agree with you. I think he holds it, to be quite honest.
So, what do you think of the trading philosophy that says all somebody has to do is monitor Richard Hart tweets and be the first one to jump on whatever he's selling on Twitter? Because I think a lot of people are taking that strategy. A lot of people have their notifications set, and a lot of them are trying to be the first ones to make moves. Do you think that's something that will be successful, or what are your thoughts on that?
For me personally, I've used that strategy to great success. It's like, I always tell folks, the Richard Hart ecosystem is one of the most predictable things in crypto, precisely because the market, that particular market, moves with his word, right? Can you imagine if once Richard starts streaming again, right? The man can move the price with a single tweet. And every single time that has happened, I've been able to make some good profits, right? We spoke about it before. Remember when the V3 was announced? Like, bro, I remember I was in bed with the wife, and I got the fucking notification on my phone. And dude, it was like the first time she saw me like react like that, like from a market update. Like, I ran downstairs so fast, and the whole house was like, "What the heck is going on, Jay? Like, what the heck's going on?" I was like, "I'm gonna tell you guys later. I have to make a purchase, right?" And I literally made my order came through right before price started running like crazily. I think the purchase came in, so I bought like around 9 cents. And then within a matter of minutes, it was at 10, bro. Right. And then the morning after, it was at 13. Right. I had my notifications was like waking me up in the middle of the night because the price was going wild. So that was a 25% gain overnight, a little bit over 25% gain overnight from a single tweet, bro. And 25% might not sound like much, but when you have considerable dry powder sitting on the sides precisely for moments like that, 25% can mean a lot, right? And 25% was, I'm not going to say exactly how much it was, but it was a considerable sum that I threw in there at that tweet. So to make a long story short, yes, can you make significant gain based on Richard Hart's tweets with the ecosystem? Yes, right? Can you succeed long term with other projects just doing that? I don't think so. I think Hex and the Richard Hart ecosystem is unique in that way, that the founder can move the price really like so crazily just with one tweet. I think the Hex ecosystem is unique in that sense. I still personally think that you definitely should learn TA and learn FA and pay attention to the market, because if you're just relying on Richard Hart to tweet in order to make your moves, I don't think you're gonna have a good time most of the time. Especially if you don't have the luxury of being able to buy whenever you want. Right? Like, you're not next to a computer all the time where you can't go to Uniswap and buy and do a market order anytime you wanted, right? But yeah, I think I think the Hex ecosystem is unique in a sense that, yes, you can do pretty well if you're just keeping an eye on his Twitter, which is like, it baffles me that Hexicans aren't, like, I know Hexicans that aren't subscribed to his Twitter. I'm like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? Right? It's like if you want a good way to miss the boat, yeah, don't subscribe to his Twitter.
Yeah, I think just like there's an anti-Kramer portfolio, I think over the next year or two, you're just going to see a Richard Hart Twitter portfolio. But hey, I did have another question for you. So
For
if
sure,
there's
brother.
anybody watching this, maybe they're in the live, maybe they're catching the replay, that hasn't purchased pHex yet, is it still at an advantageous level right now for them to get in on it to make a purchase, or would you recommend them waiting until the end of the wave 5, or what would be your advice suggestion to folks that haven't bought it yet, that see the potential in this and that want to go ahead and start taking a bite out of the market?
So me personally, if you wanted to catch some of the gains, I would keep my time-based DCAs in there, but it's always good habit to have a little bit of dry powder on the side, right? Because like I mentioned earlier, once this wave 5 finishes, we're gonna pull back into pHex's first macro wave 2. And we will get to that analysis, but I expect we're gonna see prices below 2 cents again, right? And you want to be able to take advantage of that. So if you wanted to take advantage of the price appreciation heading to that wave 5, yeah, I would stick to your time-based DCAs, right? When we start seeing a lot of bearish divergence form on the RSI, when that wave 5 finally tops, and you can start laddering out your profits and then buy back in lower, right? But the combined price for both pHex and eHex is 3 cents, right? It's around 3 cents, which is not too far from our bear market lows, right? When it was just Ethereum Hex, when none of the other RH ecosystem tokens existed yet, right? Because Pulse Chain hadn't been released, our bear market lows was around 2.8 cents. Combined price for both hexes right now is around 3 cents. So it's not too far off from our bear market lows. So is it a good time to keep your DCAs in? Absolutely. Right? A lot of people were really butthurt because they missed the lows the first time on Ethereum Hex. Well, here's your opportunity again to invest in the RH ecosystem tokens at a time when their prices are still severely depressed. Right? We're below SAC. We're right around SAC prices for Pulse. We're still below SAC price for Pulse X, and we're right around bear market lows combined price for the Hex pair. So is it a good time to keep dollar cost averaging into this ecosystem? Yeah, absolutely. Right? Don't get too greedy. Right? Don't get too greedy because there was a lot of people who were like, yeah, I think Hex is still going to go below like 1.5 cents, or it's going to go below 2 cents, right? When there was still just Ethereum Hex. And they missed that right up. They missed the ride up from 2.8 cents to 13 cents. They missed all of that gain. That was like a 6.5x. And you missed all of that because you were too greedy. You have another chance here, right? This is your second win. You have another chance here to get into all of these different tokens at a very good price. These prices are freaking ridiculous. Are you kidding me? If you miss the SAC for Pulse Chain and Pulse X, you're getting in at prices that those people got into. And you mean to tell me that's still not good enough? Bro, like I don't know how else to convince you otherwise, man. So yeah, these are good prices to dollar cost average into not just pHex, but in all of the RH ecosystem tokens. Even incentive, if you think that thing is gonna go to the moon, right? Which it could. We don't know. Only Richard knows the plans for incentive token, right? Everything else that we're doing right now, just like we were saying earlier, is pure fucking speculation, right? So it's a good time to dollar cost average into the RH ecosystem tokens. So not financial advice, but that's what I'm doing. And I know that's what the rest of the gang is doing. So
That's right. Not financial advice. It's the stamp that we put on every single episode that we do. All right, man. Awesome episode. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on?
no, sir. Just keep those price targets in consideration. Minimum 2.9 cents. If we get really bullish momentum heading into the latter half of this 60-day cycle, if Jerome Powell decides to hold the rates, highest of stakes movie coming out the first weekend of August, which is around my birthday, actually, that would be nice. Then I would not be surprised if pHex tried to make a run for its all-time high. Around 4.4 cents is where I'm expecting us to get really crazy resistance if we do head up there. So keep those price targets in mind. Check out for bearish divergence forming on that RSI once we get close to those numbers, and then start laddering out your profits. Bro, you're going to be happy camper, right? Because if you got in at like around 1.1 cents, bro, that's a 4x. Don't get greedy, man. Ladder out some profits. Ladder out some profits. Don't get greedy, right? The greed goes both ways, right? People that don't want to buy in close to the bottom, and people that don't want to take in profits close to the top when that bearish divergence starts forming, right? So, yeah. But hey, thanks for hopping on, Josh. It always makes it a lot more fun when you jump on these live streams with me, because it's like it's I don't mind doing these things solo, but I always have a lot more fun when the rest of the gang is on stream with me. And then thank you to our live viewers who jump on and and jump on the comments and give us their insight. Billy had some really good insight today, so thank you for that, Billy. And yeah, man, as usual, really thank you for helping us out do this. It's always a pleasure to have you produce in the background. So.
Yeah, brother, absolutely. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you, what you got coming up around the corner? If you're going to be doing anything fun with your Twitter coming up, anything like that, tell everyone what you got going on.
Yeah, so you guys can find me at agent_J Schroth on Instagram, and then on Twitter, _P90Hex. What I'm going to have coming down the pipe is look out for our second part of our TA series, where we're going to be going over Jemima Charles. Thank you. Jemima Charles, you are very, very welcome, my friend. I hope you got some value out of this stream. That's our ultimate goal for the Degenerate Roundtable, is always to provide as much value to you guys as possible. So yeah, you can actually find me on Twitter at _P90Hex, and I'm going to start posting a lot more of my technical analysis on there, and also do a lot more of these streams with you guys if you enjoy it, right? If it's like an individual coin that I'm looking at, or like maybe a combination of them, I'm going to start doing this a lot more often because people seem to like it. And so, yeah, look out for that on my Twitter, and more live streams like this from me and Josh. Josh, you're muted, brother. You're muted. Oh, hold up. I'm going to unmute you. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, my hotkey wasn't working for some reason. I don't know what happened. It worked the entire show, but for some reason it wasn't working. But awesome TA as always. Definitely looking forward to seeing what you got coming out on Twitter. That's awesome. Definitely, everyone, make sure you are liking this page. Make sure you're commenting on the video, and make sure you're subscribing to the channel. If you go down in the description link, you guys will see our Telegram chat. Make sure you guys click on that, join our Telegram. It's growing every single day. It's awesome. We got a ton of good insight in there. We make ourselves available to you guys for questions and just for general conversation, to let you guys know what's on our horizon, what we think is a good idea, and just ultimately building up our community. It's pretty awesome. Like I said, it's continuing to grow. Also in the link, you'll be able to find Jay's Twitter. I made it clickable. You guys can just go in there, click it. You'll find my Twitter in there also. Again, I'm Josh. You guys can find me on Twitter at Chocolate Taints. We have our next DGen Roundtable show coming up 8 o'clock on Sunday. Make sure you guys hit that notification bell. Make sure you guys are subscribed to be able to catch that show. We're going to have some good content coming around the corner for you guys. I know Nate, Tracker, and Jeff just finished recording the next, it was about 2 hours of video yesterday, last night, to be able to get you guys some LP product and LP yielding information that will be dripping out across the channel soon as well. So that's what we got coming around the corner. Love having you guys. Love hearing the comments. Love hearing the feedback. The live viewers, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for contributing to the chat. Again, catch us on Sunday night. That will be our next live episode, unless we feel like hopping on before then. But Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, that will be our next episode of DGen Roundtable. We're going to have the whole crew together. We'll be talking about some good stuff. So until then, until the next time, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. You guys have a good night. Peace out.